Hello there, friends and family, and anybody else who may decide to watch. My name is Patrick, and I am a comic book veteran. Now, what does that mean? Well, I've been collecting comics for a very long time, actually back to the mid 1970s. And while I've been a little off and on here and there, which is the case, I believe, with most collectors, I am fortunate that I have amassed quite a few books. I'm going to say somewhere probably I haven't counted, but I'm going to say somewhere probably in the 8 to 10,000 book category. So I've got a fair number of books. And my collection goes actually to the early 1940s, and I'm going to talk about that in later episodes. This is episode 1, and I wanted to kind of talk about this and introduce who I am and what my goals are. And I'm going to say that at this point, I'm not doing anything for money or sponsorships or anything like that. If it comes up at some point, then cool. Otherwise, I'm just doing this for fun and to put out information. Now, the second point that I'd like to make is that I am a veteran. I was in the Army for 20 years. I was able to travel all over the world and had a really fantastic career. Made a lot of friends in countries that I hadn't heard of when I was younger. Anyway, I've been very fortunate, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody might have. But today, I just wanted to kind of get a brief overview of what I am. You can see that I have a lot of books. The display behind me, you'll notice, is basically all Marvel. I do have a couple of things in there that are DC. You may notice over here the Green Lantern 76 poster that was signed for me by Neal Adams. I purchased it from him at a Comic-Con in 2017. I've also got another couple that are on this side that are off screen. The other ones that I have are the Batman 242, I think, 243, and the Batman 251. Sometime I'd like to get one more, and I've got a place for it right there. I just have to find the ones that are the right size. Nevertheless, I wanted to talk to you today about 2 books specifically. And bear with me, because these aren't going to seem like they're very important or have any bearing on anything. They're not super popular. They're not super important in the history of comics. And I've got some other ones that are similar. But I wanted to bring up this. Okay, it's one of the mid 1970s collector's edition sized books. This one was bought for me by my great-grandmother. Maybe my grandmother. What we would do is my grandmother would pick me up and then drive me about an hour and a half from where I grew up to go see my great-grandmother. And when we would go, she would buy me comic books. This is one of them. And so I would read the book, and I would really enjoy it and just have a great time on the way to and from my great-grandmother's. I learned to read from this and other books that were purchased for me at that time. So this is one of the more important books to me personally that I have in my collection. And yeah, if I were to try to resell it in this condition, I'd probably get cover price, $1 or $2 for it. Not terribly valuable, but it means a lot to me. I have a lot of fond memories of that. Another book that I'd like to talk about, and I do have my original of this, but this is not it. The original is filed away somewhere over there, and it's one of those things I need to do, is to refile a lot of my books. They're not as organized as I would like. Are they ever? Besides, I had to pull out a lot of these, and some of these have been up on my display for a few years now. But I'd like to show you this one, Marvel Super Action #1. You'll see it's a big premiere issue, but really what it is a reprint of Captain America 100. Now, up on my display somewhere up here, I've got my Cap 100. We've got a couple of copies of it, but why this? This is a 1977 book, which means that I was about 7 or 8 years old. Not that I want to give away my age, but you get the idea. Anyway, my dad came home and he brought me a copy of this book, and I read it, and I was absolutely fascinated with it. My brother and I read it, and until it's still got the cover on it, but it's just one of those books that we read again and again and again and again. And we had a lot of fun with it. And I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, I bought this copy, which is a much, much nicer copy, just as a memory. Now, I look at vintage comic books like you see around me, and I have around my room, and again, at some point, I will work my way through some of those. I look at them as history. They are part of our popular culture history, pop culture history. And they are representative of the times that they were created. And as an example, if you look over my shoulder right here, there's a Black Panther first appearance, Fantastic Four 52. Well, it was around that same time that the organization, the Black Panthers, was created, which Marvel had to make a big choice. Do we associate ourselves with that through the character that we created, or do we not? And those were some hard choices, I'm sure, back in the mid-1960s. You look at the X-Men that I've got along here. There's a very early X-Men. I've got a 3, 4, from 3 through, I don't know, quite a few. I'm still filling in a few holes here and there, but I did have a 1 and 2, and those were stolen. That's another story. That's a whole other episode. But the X-Men was a way of addressing the issue of diversity and the conflicts that created. Spider-Man was just completely against the grain when he was created. I used to have a Spider-Man 7 that, again, was stolen. I've got some in the 20s or 30s, and there's a 39 and 40 right there. But Spider-Man, all of a sudden, where you had these perfect characters, Bruce Wayne and Diana Prince and Clark Kent, all of a sudden now we have a teenager that's got issues. And obviously that took off and hit a chord with pop culture because it addressed teenagers. I'm a big fan of books of the Golden Age and the Silver Age. I like Bronze, and I like them all. There's no limit to what I like or don't like. And I will go through some of those as well. My goal is to share and tell some history. For me, it doesn't matter a whole lot if a book is graded or not, if it's in fantastic condition or it's not. It's still a piece of our history. And that's something that is important for all of us. And if we lose sight of that history, then where do we stand as a people? And so comic books is one of my ways of preserving that as a legacy. Obviously, I know that at some point, what you see behind me will end up going to my kids, potentially grandkids, and I hope that those things will be valued by them as much as they are by me. I do have a lot of other interests, so I'm a big fan of cars, I'm a big fan of watches, and I may talk about some of those things at another opportunity. But here we are, and this is what I've got to say. My name is Patrick, and I am a comic book veteran. Thank you for your time today.